Alright, game design crew, welcome to part 2 of our Parallax tutorial. I wasn't quite pleased with the first one, so we're going to make a variation of this that will work well with both a solid background and also a layered background as well. And I'm going to show you how to do both. This is also still going to be like a very simple script. It's not very involved, and I'll break everything down for you too. So first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create an empty game object just like we did last time, which I'm going to name background. Sorry if my typing is weird. I have the microphone in front of the keyboard. So I'm going to put this over here. And what I'm going to do is create another game object. Create empty, call this 1, and we're going to put this inside the background. And now I'm going to add a sprite renderer to this, and I have some different layers for a background right here. They are at the resolution of 1920 by 1080, which is probably a little bit of overkill, but I'm sure it will look and turn out just fine. So I'm going to bring this background right into this right spot, and let's make this bigger. Put like right there, I think is good for now, and if we have to resize it, we totally can. So I'm going to select this one, I'm going to duplicate it, rename it to 2. And the next layer of this is going to be, I'll make it trees 2. And we need to make sure we start layering this. So this is going to go on layer 1. And we're just going to rinse and repeat the same thing over and over again. 3. 1. Layer 3. We got 0, 1. Oh yeah, this is going to be 2. And duplicate. 4. Then we're going to bring the bushes. So go on layer 3. And one more time. Duplicate. And that will be the grass. On layer 4. So I already went ahead and changed the player and grid, different tile maps, enemy, all that kind of stuff to the top layer, which for me is 5. It may be different for you, but just keep that in mind. You'll probably have to change the sorting layer of these other objects as well. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to see if I like the sizing of the background here. I'm probably going to have to make some changes. Yeah, it's not filling up enough space, so let's go ahead and do that. So let's make this larger, about yay big, and then I'm also going to bring it up a little bit, I think about right there. Let's see if this looks good. Looking pretty good. I could even probably bring this down a little bit. About right there. And I think that'll be fine. Yeah, that's good for now. And I can tweak this later. Let's go ahead and bring it down now. Save the trouble. Okay. Yeah, I'm fine with this for now. Okay, so now what we need to do is in the type of parallax effect that we're going to be making is essentially we're going to have multiple instances of our background. So our background is going to be tiled twice, once to the left, or 3 times in total, once to the left, in the middle, and then 1 to the right. And what's going to happen is as the camera is moving, we are going to essentially redraw these backgrounds. So each layer is going to have a script assigned to it, And as we move forward, the background that is behind this is going to get redrawn in front of it. So let's go ahead and start doing that. I need to duplicate these things first. So I'm going to highlight all of my layers, duplicate them once, and move them over to the left. And I will duplicate again and move them over to the right. So you should have a nice long background similar to this. Now what we also need to do is I need to take every instance of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 and put them into, inside of like what is going to be like the main layer of this, because this is the layer that is going to have the script assigned to it, and it will be applied to everything that is a child of this main layer. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's select these two, drag them right into one. And the way I'm doing this is I'm just clicking one of them, holding down Shift, clicking the other, and then dragging it on top of the layer I want to be the parent. So the box is turning gray, and I'm letting go. So I'm just going to do the same thing for each one. Perfect. So now we have everything in its appropriate layers. So 1, we have our 3 main backgrounds or furthest backgrounds. We have our 3, next closest one, so on and so forth. Okay, so now we can start writing the script for the parallax effect. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go into my scripts folder. I'm going to create C# script. I'm going to name this updated parallax. And let's go ahead and start writing this out. Make this a little bigger. All right, so the first thing that we need to start off with is some variables. Let me adjust my keyboard here. Okay, so we need the length of the background, and we need the starting position of the background. So I'm going to create 2 private variables. They're both going to be of the float data type. One is going to be called length, and the other is going to be called start position. So when you're creating variables in C#, you can declare them this way. Both of these variables are going to be floats, so I can just list them off, each variable that I want separated by a comma. Handy little trick to know. Then we are going to need our camera that we are going to tie to the script. So it is game object, and we'll just give it the name of cam, because we are basing this parallax movement on the location of the camera. So it's important that we know where the camera is at all times. And then, of course, just like the first script that we did, we need a float variable that allows us to manipulate how intense the parallax effect is. So I'm just going to name it parallax effect, just like that. Okay. So in our start function, what we need to do is we need to get the start position of the background, or I should say the start position of every piece of the background that the script is assigned to. And then we also need to get the length of the sprite renderer of the background. So the sprite itself, we want to know how long it is. So I'll write some comments here just to make it clear. So we are going to start by getting the X value of our starting position. And so we're just going to update start position to transform.position.x. Next, we are getting the length of the sprite itself. So length is going to get updated to we are going to get the components of our sprite renderer. And we specifically want the length, the x-axis length of the sprite. So it's bounds size dot x. Perfect. So now we can start writing the update script to create a simple parallax effect. So we're going to start off without doing the infinitely repeating tiling of the background. I'm just going to show you what you can write to create a parallax effect with a solid background first. Very first thing we need is to determine how far we have moved from our start point. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to create a new float variable that I'm going to call dist for distance. And we're going to set this equal to our camera game object. And we are going to get the x value. Transform.position. Its position on the x-axis. And we are going to multiply that by whatever our parallax effect is that we will assign in our inspector. And once we have that, we then of course need to move the camera. Or I should say move the sprite based on the location of the camera. So we're going to transform dot position, and we are making a new vector 3 for this. And to update that position of the specific layer that this script is going to be assigned to, we are just affecting the x-axis here. So we are taking the start position and we are adding our distance to it. And then everything else can just stay the same. Transform dot position. Whoops. Dot y, staying exactly the same. And same thing for z. So this is all you would need to create that parallax effect for a solid background. And it will even work if you have a layered background too, but you would have to make sure that your background sprite is large enough to encompass your entire level, which may result in a really huge resolution image, which you may not want. So that's why we're going to create an infinitely repeating background for this. But let's at least take a look at what we have so far. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, close these down like this. I'm going to select each of these main layers for our background, and I'm going to assign our updated parallax effect to it. So we can bulk add a script by selecting everything in our hierarchy that we want to have it, and I'm just going to click and drag it as a new component onto there. So now you can see that every single one of these layers, or I should say objects, has that script applied to it. And we can do the same thing to assign the camera. So I can shift select everything, go here, and we're selecting the main camera. And sure enough, now everything has the main camera assigned to it. So starting with the furthest background, I'm going to assign value of 0. 2 will have something like, say, 0.3, 0.5, 0.75, and this will be 1. So let's see how this looks. Okay, that doesn't look right. I think I need to flip the orientation here. So like this would be closer to 1. This would be 0.75, 0.5, 0.25, and 0. There we go. Yep, that's a lot better. So now we got a really nice parallax effect going, but however, if we were to continue running in this direction, and I can show that to you this way, bring our game window down here, and if I were to continually move the camera, so I'm going to select our main camera here and I'm going to move it, you can see that it's not repeating over time. That parallax effect is just continuously shifting as we move the camera, which we don't want. Eventually, after a certain threshold, we want to take what is rendering back here and move it to the front. So let's add our script to make that happen. Okay. So what we're doing here is we are moving the background based on how far we have traveled. Changing start position of the background to where we are now. That is our goal for this block of code that we have here. So to do this, I am going to create a new float that we will name temp. And this is just getting like the temporary location of the camera. So cam.transform.position, and of course we're working in the x-axis here as always. We're getting that times 1 minus the parallax effect. So the reason why we are subtracting the parallax effect from 1 here is because we want to know how far we have moved relative to the camera. So we don't want the values of the parallax effect influencing that. So this is going to let us know exactly. So I'll just write a comment here. It tells us how far we have moved relative to the camera. And now all we need to do is just update the start position of the background based on our location. So we're going to say if temp is greater than our start position plus the length of the sprite itself, we are going to update the start position of the sprite to itself plus the length of the sprite. So that is what is telling Unity to take that sprite, change its start position, and increase it by the length of the sprite itself. So this is shorthand for saying start position is equal to start position plus length. But just to save on some time, you can write that out as start position plus equals length. That is the same thing as saying start position equals start position plus length. Just going to put that there just for reference for you guys. So that, yep, that's all we need for the if statement. That's moving in the right direction. And then we also need to do this if we are moving to the left as well. So I'm going to say else if temp is less than start position minus length, we will update start position to itself minus the length of the sprite. Let's save this. Okay. And let's go ahead and hit play here. And you will see, I'm going to have to update that. I need to bring the background closer. Let's see if it's also clipping through on the other side. Nope, that side is good. Good. So that means I just have to update this one and bring it closer. Let me go ahead and do that really quick before we move forward. See how there's a line going through right here? I don't want that. So that is one. Whoops, in caps lock. So here what I'm doing is I'm selecting, holding control to select the individual pieces that I want. And now I'm just going to slide this over ever so slightly, like that. And that should be fine. Okay, let's play this again. Perfect, so our parallax effect is working. And if I were to go ahead and zoom out of here, select the camera, you can see that, it's going to be tough to do here, let me keep zooming out. But you can see that as I am moving, it is updating those individual layers so that no matter how far I go, we are going to be moving and rendering our background based on the location of the camera specifically. All right. So that is going to be it for the parallax video. Like I said, if you have a solid background or you don't have a tileable background but with layers, you can still create this effect, but just keep in mind that eventually the further you move, the more separated these layers are going to get from each other. So you may need a very large background in order for it to work, but if you don't want to have that infinite scrolling effect, all you simply have to do is get rid of these lines of code right here, and that'll be fine. You just may need a large image. So that is it for this video, guys. Best of luck to you creating your parallax effect.